Okay, so today we're getting into something pretty complex, really sensitive territory. We're talking about determining brain death, and specifically how that plays out when organ transplantation is, part of the picture.
It really is a tangled area.
Yeah.
And we've been looking at some sources that highlight this almost paradoxical situation. Policies meant to build public trust might actually be doing the opposite.
Right. So our mission today for this deep dive is really to unpack that. Why would these specific, stricter rules, which seem like a good idea on the surface potentially, undermine people's faith in the whole process?
Exactly. It hits right at that nerve where medical practice meets public anxiety.
Okay, so maybe let's start with the baseline. The standard way brain death is diagnosed. We're talking about established medical criteria, right? Neurological exams, apnea tests, things generally accepted worldwide.
Absolutely. There's a rigorous, scientifically grounded process.
Yeah.
It's meant to be objective, reliable, and public trust in healthcare kind of hinges on that reliability. But this is where our sources show things get complicated, particularly in some European countries. They've introduced a sort of split system.
A split system? How so?
Well, the sources point out that some places have brought in what they call tougher guidelines for determining brain death. But here's the kicker. These tougher rules only apply if the person is a potential organ donor.
Only for donors, not for everyone else.
That's right. It's not a universal change to the medical standard. It's specific to that one situation.
And how does that actually work? Is it like different tests?
Often it's more procedural, even legal. The sources mention requirements like needing a whole separate team of doctors, totally independent, who all have to agree on the diagnosis.
A whole extra team just for potential donors.
Precisely.
Yeah.
An additional layer of sign-off that isn't part of the standard procedure for someone, say, heading for immediate burial or cremation.
Okay, I can see the logic they're probably going for. The stated reason must be about public reassurance, right?
Exactly. The stated intention is crystal clear. It's to combat fears that maybe a diagnosis could be rushed or influenced because viable organs are needed.
To stop people worrying about a premature diagnosis just for the sake of transplantation sounds sensible, like good PR almost.
It does sound sensible, but this is where the sources really push back. They raise a critical question. Does adding this extra layer actually reduce suspicion? Or, counterintuitively, does it create it?
Wait, how could adding more checks create suspicion? That seems backwards. Are the sources saying it's actively harmful?
They're arguing it sends a really problematic signal. Think about it. If the standard medical tests, the ones used every day for everyone else, are scientifically solid for declaring death,
Right.
then why suddenly require this extra legal safeguard, this whole other team, only when organs might be donated?
I see where you're going. It implies the standard method isn't quite trustworthy enough on its own.
That's the implication, yeah. It subtly suggests the standard process is maybe conditional, or perhaps less reliable when there's this potential benefit of organ retrieval involved.
So these extra tougher rules, meant to reassure, actually end up feeding the very suspicion they're trying to prevent by suggesting the everyday standard isn't foolproof.
That's the core argument in the sources. It keeps alive this mistaken belief, as they put it, that diagnosing brain death is somehow fuzzy or imprecise, needing extra non-medical layers, but only sometimes.
Which damages credibility overall, because if the definition of death seems flexible depending on the circumstances.
It undermines trust across the board. The sources really hammer this point. Consistency is key for public faith. Any deviation suggests the medical facts can be, adjusted based on other factors.
So what's the fix, according to these sources? What are they suggesting?
They argue really strongly for absolute consistency. No special rules for donors.
Just one standard.
One standard. The criteria for diagnosing death should be exactly the same, whether the person is a potential donor or someone for whom, burial or cremation is planned. If the science is sound, apply it universally.
Okay, so let's recap this for everyone listening. We've got this situation where policies designed with the good intention of building trust by adding extra checks for organ donors might actually be signaling that the standard medical process itself isn't totally reliable. It's a real dilemma. Trying to prove trustworthiness ends up highlighting a potential inconsistency.
It really forces us to confront this tension between, say, the strict medical definition of death and how legal or policy layers interact with it, sometimes muddying the waters for the public.
Which brings us to that final thought for you, the listener, to chew on. If society feels the need for an extra team, an extra layer of legal agreement, only when organ donation is a possibility, What does that really tell us about the underlying public confidence in the standard, everyday medical criteria we use to determine when life has ended? Something to consider.